With two recent Boeing 737 MAX 8 crashes, two things came to mind. First, the aircraft category is the nation's leading export, having just set a record for the 8th consecutive year. Second, a quip from a mentor many years ago.
"I don't have any problem with monopolies,"
he growled in his gravelly voice,
"as long as they're my own."
Boeing has about 350 of the MAX 8 aircraft flying. In the United States, American Airlines has 24 and Southwest has 34. Back to that quote. Boeing, perhaps the strongest global symbol of U.S. manufacturing might, isn't a monopoly at all. It is a duopoly. With Airbus, the European consortium, it controls 85 to 90% of the so-called large jet market. It wasn't always the case. A half century ago, when virtually everyone in this country drove a U.S.-made car and there was little competition, there were a number of jet manufacturers and tough competition. Fast forward to today. Walk through any parking lot and you will see cars with origins in Sweden, Italy, Germany, South Korea, Japan, and of course, the United States. Cars are better and more reliable than ever. And there's no telling where the car's final assembly might have taken place. Cars from all those foreign countries are now manufactured in the United States, and the U.S. companies manufacture cars outside our borders. While the dynamics and economics of the two industries are vastly different, with the airline industry, the story has played out differently over time. Today, we have less competition. That said, and this is important, planes are not only safe, but exceptionally safe, highly regulated. Oh, and we actually have two duopolies, at least at the moment. The regional jet market, which builds planes for flights between secondary markets, is also a duopoly, with Brazilian manufacturer Embraer and Canadian manufacturer Bombardier, the consequential players. Pay attention now, the plot thickens. Boeing is now in talks to acquire most of Embraer. That's the Brazilians. That is in response to Airbus, the European consortium, planning to build jets from the Canadian manufacturer Bombardier. That's because Boeing filed anti-dumping charges against Bombardier, that's the Canadian manufacturer, which was going to build new mid-range jets in Canada for sale in the United States. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission sided with Boeing and slapped 300% tariffs on those jet imports. The plot thickens again. So Bombardier announced a partnership of sorts with Airbus, and the two announced that one place they would build the mid-range jets was, of course, the United States, more specifically in Mobile, Alabama, where Airbus was already operating. They would dodge the tariffs and they would use U.S. labor. Some would call that win-win. That could certainly mean additional exports if some of those jets are sold to airlines outside the United States. In 2018, total exports of U.S. aircraft, a category that includes some parts, totaled $130.83 billion, a 5-year gain of almost 25% at a time when overall U.S. exports increased just 5.38%. While it's tough to argue for protecting the steel industry on national defense grounds, it's a little easier to argue for protecting the aviation industry, specifically jet manufacturing, now that there's not a U.S. competitor.